take me higher than love. You're making me feel some kind of way. And now we see. You take me higher than love. You're making me feel some kind of way. You take me there.
everyone, and welcome to the finale of the BUSR F1 Spring Series. We have a championship decided to get through in the next hour and a half or so, and we have two drivers that are going to be battling it out around the Bahrain International Circuit to be crowned the Spring Champion of 2024. I am hugely excited. Inside the virtual commentary box this evening is myself, Tom, and I'm delighted to say that it is Mattia Bonotto sat to my right. I think you can all agree what an addition to the commentary box. Mattia, or Alex, some people might know you about, but I think Mattia Bonotto is the best way to introduce you. We've got a championship decided. What are you expecting for this finale?
Oh, it's going to be it's going to be a fight to the death here. We've got Geek and Matty just up there in the points. Obviously, Cameron Self with the two DNFs, he couldn't really do much about one of them. So it does seem that is a bit far away for Cameron to get the championship here. But Geek and Matty definitely within this. Obviously, the Geek just a bit ahead of Matty, but really it is any person's game here. If as long as Matty finishes above Geek, really. It seems to be his championship, but obviously Geek just needs to make sure that he pretty much whoever outscores the other is going to win this championship.
Yeah, so the current state of play going into the finale, including drop week rounds, it is Geek that leads the way on 553 points. Geek yet to win a championship. He's spoken a lot about how much he wants to win one. This is probably the best opportunity he's had so far. Matty, though, 6 points behind. 553 for Geek. 547 for Matty. So everything up in the air. Some of the title permutations for you. If Geek finishes first or second with the fastest lap, he is the champion. So that's all he's got to do. Sounds simple on paper, doesn't it? Life is not that simple. And I think there could be a few twists in the tape as we go through qualifying and then our 50% race. For Matty to win, he basically has to beat Geek. No alternatives. If they both fail to score, we could be in for some interesting stuff, because that hasn't been taken into account yet. If Cameron Searle wins and Matty and Geek fail to score, we're going to have some maths done on the fly by someone in the background. But as it stands, it is Geek versus Matty, 6 points in it. Geek first or second with the fast lap, he wins it. Matty has to beat him. Effectively, Matty has to win the race.
Yeah, pretty much. This is how it's going to go down, really. Yeah, the only three people that are within any kind of contention for the championship is Geek, Matty, and Cameron. P3 is always up for grabs as well. We've got Assassin, Alpha, and Willy quite comfortably in those positions. Assassin and Alpha looking a lot better than Willy, and even Joe for that matter, to be honest. But it would have to be a miracle for Joe to jump into P4 here. But so obviously we've got the unofficial teams championships and also the unofficial universities championship as well up for play here. I believe Warwick, Holloway, and Angela Ruskin are all within contention here. I can't tell you exactly what the points are for both of those teams, all three of those teams. So I'll be trying to calculate that as we go through the race.
And moving on to the circuit, it is Sakir, it is Bahrain. What are your thoughts on the track? Not typically a season finale, usually is the curtain raiser rather than the venue where the curtain falls. So what are you expecting? It's a track that lends itself pretty nicely to overtaking, but it is also very difficult, and it is also a bit of a tyre churner.
Yeah, it is a bit. It will eat out those tyres, to be honest. So I think we might be seeing a two-stop race, but as some people will probably try to do a one-stop and try to go along in a set of hard tyres. The track is hard to follow in some sections, and then the other sectors it is just breeze past with pretty much a push to pass with the DRS on the main straight mostly. But we're gonna have to see how it is. Bit of a backwards calendar this year, ending off with this race. But that said, it is a good race to end the season on. In my opinion, it's probably a lot better than Abu Dhabi is for a season finale.
And how do you think experience in this scenario will affect our two drivers that are gunning for the title? Matty, or Matty Moo Moo as he was known previously, has been here countless times in the past. He knows how to get a championship, one and done. Geek does not. He is, not the rank outsider, but the inexperienced driver. He's been in this scenario before, been in a championship fight, but didn't manage to get over the line a couple of seasons, or a couple of games ago, sorry. So good opportunity for both drivers. Cameron Searle with the unfortunate events that took place last week. Void round 7 was trending in the BUSR Discord server, and I can probably see why. But he'll be looking to end the season on a high, but unfortunately won't be in that battle. So yeah, how do you think experience will play a part in this?
Experience-wise, I mean, obviously, within just I can't talk for anybody else's experience outside of the BUSR, but within the BUSR, we do have quite a few drivers who have, raced at this track, because this does come up quite a few times throughout the championships. Joe, Matty, they do have quite a bit of experience on this map. Joe is a pretty fast driver around here. Cameron, I can't really remember his pace too well, if I do remember it at all.
Well, you can probably guess where it'll be.
Yeah, let's be honest. He'll be up there in the front. But obviously he isn't really one to be contending for any championships right now. If all goes Matty and Geek's way for that title. But that said, everything can happen. Never say never, really, because at the end of the day, you could have somebody trying to make a move into the turn one and get underway here. And we're underway here. 16 drivers, only one lobby this race, it seemed. And we are now waiting in the pit garage to see who is going to be making their first move out on the track. Willie Blobs in the AlphaTauri. I thought he was a Ferrari guy.
Yeah, maybe we've had a little bit of a swap around, because I'm going to go with Core in the Ferrari. Haven't seen them before, so maybe a debut or maybe a username change. Cameron Searle, though, he could be the chink in the armour potentially for one of our championship protagonists, is actually first out on track. So looking to get an early statement in, you would imagine. But if we can go back to maybe some loyalties that we've seen in the past, you'd expect Matty and Joe to be working together. Will Geek be able to call on the assistance of Cameron Searle, who outright has been the fastest driver this season? But, and as we saw famously in Las Vegas and probably infamously last week as well, luck not always been on his side, which is why he's in the position where, he better be praying for a miracle.
Yeah, no, he's gonna be trying to get that pole position as everyone will hear. He's got to try to fight his way through this, really, and just hope and pray that something happens. Maybe some other drivers have been paid off. Yeah, could always happen. And we see Cameron Searle leading the championship here. Obviously, faultless throughout the season, apart from Vegas, and faultless until Silverstone. Really, that was a disconnect. That was not what we expected from that race. To be honest, that race was in complete and utter shambles, and we couldn't really commentate on that too well to our abilities. But we tried to make it work as much as possible. Although Tom did have a little bit of a moment and starting a little bit mad. But now we have Cameron Searle starting his lap, barreling it down into 8th gear into turn one. This braking zone is just. Yeah, it's immense. It's a lot of G-forces going through the driver here. Obviously, in the virtual rigs, it's not going to be anything like that. But he's bringing it out quite smoothly into 5th gear as he exit off turn 3 there, keeping it in that 7th gear and breaking that 100-meter board, bringing it around 3rd, and keeping it pretty much right on the edge of those curbs there. You don't really want to take too much. You've got to bottom out quite quickly as you do run rather low. A low suspension here to try combat some of that drag that you would face on the main straights there as well. This corner result very tricky, very easy to lock up through that corner. So we will be seeing quite a few people trying to take a different approach there. Obviously, back in 2023, Fernando Alonso making a very beautiful overtake around that corner there, so it can be done. So you never know. You could see a couple of people trying to do that around here. And now bringing it up to turn 13. Obviously going to be a purple sector as nobody else has been out on track so far. Everyone else is on track apart from BUSR now. So we're going to see... Oh, and that is all very close to the back of, I think, Core there. Probably going rather slowly, or Geek and Core are both on their outlap, so it's anyone's guess, really. And Cameron Searle goes for a 1:28.1 pretty much. Setting quite a good lap time there to set the benchmark for everybody else.
You don't expect that's going to be beaten. Yeah, you don't expect that's going to be beaten for a little while. Jaraki is a second down on a 29. flat, so a bit of work to do. We'll have to wait and see what the championship protagonists can manage to sum up on their first flying lap. Zizi will probably go and does into third and last place. A little bit of a spread between our drivers so far. Iceberg on an out lap. That was a big jink over from Cameron Searle going down into the penultimate corner to pick up the slipstream, looking for any advantage that he can get as Geek posts a 28.8 in the first sector and Alpha using the toe of the other Ferrari to set a 29.5. Cameron Searle straight on the pace, it seems, as Woolly Blobs is the second driver into the 1 minute 28, only just by 3 milliseconds. Matty only sixth at the moment, yet to set a time. Assassin over the line, the second McLaren, but that is a long way off. You'd expect there was some kind of traffic involved, maybe came together with James. There's Tom Hug into the pits, doesn't fancy that one. We'll wait to see what Matty does. Coming around the final corner now, Arya up into fourth place, member of that mid-29 club, and this is what we're going to need to see. Matty, has he got the pace to challenge Cameron Searle? Only 3/10 back. It's not a terrible start for one of our championship contenders. Blue Flyer has invalidated, but it is Cameron Searle, the pace setter, as has been so often this season.
Yeah, Matty just hanging on there, 4/10 off, but I think Cameron Searle's definitely got a few tenths left in him there. That's only his first lap out so far, so he's going to be trying to go out on a fresh set of soft tyres here and trying to make something work out of another lap as well. Geek into fifth here. Good laps from these guys, but it is a second off from P1 to P3 here. The Matty in a bit of a AlphaTauri sandwich right now. And now Ice Boy on his flying lap as well.
Geek will be a little bit concerned by that, won't he? 1.1 seconds back already, 8/10 off Matty as Ice Boy chucks in a 28.9, joins Woolly Blobs just inside the 1 minute 28. It's just inside a second off the benchmark time. Geek only 6th at the moment. His teammate is down in last on a 30.6. Not the best start for Geek. When he's going to be under pressure, you would expect Matty, as Joe is only 7 milliseconds down on his teammate's time. Those two Williams are going to be working together. Geek's got to get involved in that. At the moment, the pace doesn't look like he's going to be challenging right at the sharp end, which is concerning when you're only 6 points in the lead of the championship.
Yeah, no, the thing is with Geek, obviously his teammate is Core here, and we haven't seen Core this season, so I can't speak for his pace here, but you know, Geek would probably want someone that is a little bit more reliable when he knows well to be helping him fight for the title here, but he just doesn't really have that. Obviously, Woody blobs into the AlphaTauri seat as well, so that other AlphaTauri seat does kind of get flip-flopped around quite a bit. But I know that Cameron Searle and a couple of others do like to work together. I can't remember who. I think, well, he was working with Geek at one point, but I don't think they're in the same Discord call at the moment in time, I submit.
Well, I would imagine Woody Blobs, as the ex-Ferrari driver, will probably provide a little bit of support to Geek. It's interesting what we're seeing with people's strategies in this qualifying session. Some people going for a cool-down lap and going again. Some people deciding to come straight back into the pits. Geek, one of those drivers, going for a second run. Ari going very slowly down the back straight, probably trying to let this Mercedes through, which I believe is going to be Tom Hug on an out lap, bailed on their first lap of the session, so we'll be trying to improve. It's not Tom Hug, it's the other one of Ice Boy, who I think is going to be coming into the pits and does. So Geek going for a second run on that set of tyres. We'll have to wait and see if he can find any time. BUSR round the final corner, 14 out of 16 times so far. The Haas up to the line. Usually a fairly quick driver is the Haas driver, up into 8th place on a 29.3, just nestled inside that top 10. Cameron Searle finding time and breaks down the benchmark into the 1 minute 27s we go, and that was on his second lap on those compound of tyres. So that is a bit of an ominous sign for his competitors. Obviously not in the championship fight. His teammate going around the final corner, taking a lot of curb on the exit, trying to keep it as wide as possible, carry as much speed as possible. Up to line we go with Woody Blobs, finds half a second, big improvement to a 28.4. So people able to find time on the second flying laps, which will be news to Geek's ears and potentially help the two Williams later on in the session.
Williams now for Tarry in the top 4, who would have thought? But yeah, it's
Geek not improving, by the way, there, a 10th down.
Yeah, Geek's going to start worrying a little bit here. He's got to be thinking about, did he just go purple in sector 2 though, or was I mistaken?
No, definitely not. He did find 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, so he's definitely he's going to be thinking about getting a little bit more pace, but he's got to make a second up here, and it's just not going to happen through this last corner. If this was just maybe a couple of corners, maybe he'd try and find a couple of extra tenths, but he just can't find it here. Maybe he would improve, I'm sure, and he does go 5th. 28.8, but that is still just under a second off Cameron Searle, not where he really wants to be. Obviously, that does place him back a few car lengths from Cameron Searle there on the 3rd row. So he can still make it work for race orange.
What we do have to comment on, though, was we saw the red light flashing at the back of his car, so maybe he wasn't the most efficient at trying to recharge that battery on the cool-down lap. Arias starting, or just finishing a lap time, sorry, and improving by a 10th, but staying in 9th place. Cherokee beginning a lap in that Alfa Romeo, which we'll see. This is the last time we'll see the Alfa Romeo name for what I imagine will be quite a long time, so hopefully they can send the team off in style before we go to Sauber with some sponsorships that we can't name. We'll see how Cherokee improves through the first sector. A little bit of traffic maybe as we cut to Geek on his in lap, currently a second down. A teammate down in last place at the moment, and surprisingly not coming into the pits and not turning the ERS on, so not quite sure what Core is doing there.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a bit of a strategy game as well. Obviously, you can run the soft tyres around here, but it isn't advised because it is a bit of a tyre eater around here. So I don't think that people are going to be thinking about saving these soft tyres and going for soft tyre runs during the races. They would probably in Singapore or somewhere like that, where the grip is a bit, there's not as much here. You do run the C3 as as the soft compound tyre, which is still an incredibly hard compound to be using. And people are just not going to be really favouring the hard and the medium, so we could be seeing a two stop with the mediums and hards, or you just see a one stop mediums to hards or hards to mediums. Cameron Sell does favour the latter, the hards to mediums. It is kind of his style around these circuits, where he will just go quite a bit longer on the hard tyres and just try to stay out as long as possible. Maybe even hope for the only thing is a yellow flag trying to hinder his performance here. Alpha, Tom Hug also not improving in that last sector there. Just going to be diving into the pits for a change of tyres. I think people are just going to be starting to crawl into the pits and go for a new set of tyres. But that said, Matty is now on a second push lap, trying to see what he can make out of this, trying to break into that 1 minute 27 barrier. He's 4/10 off of the pace of his rival Cameron Sol, but he can try and make this work. But he has to be smiling a little bit there, as Geek is far back from him.
Half a second the difference between the two championship contenders. Matty, we're going to stay on board with this lap, you would imagine. The two Williams drivers out of sync, going for a second lap on a brand new set of tyres, you would imagine. Matty finding 7 milliseconds in the first sector, 28.6. He'll be trying to find another 0.4 per second to challenge Cameron Selt and get onto the front row. His teammate Joe is a few corners back and is about to start his second lap of the session as we come through the treacherous turn 9 and 10 complex. Very easy to lock up a brake and go wide, as we saw Ferrari doing earlier on. Takes it very nicely though. And Matty, this has been a fairly clean lap so far. We can't see the delta unfortunately on the screen because of that strange Williams heads-up display that they have of course got rid of for 2024, because they have finally found a penny and can actually do what everybody else does and not build their car in an Excel spreadsheet. Through the blind turn 13 we go, still not finding a lot of time. 12 milliseconds up, we only find 5 thousandths of a second, so this is not going to be the improvement that Matty was looking for unless his final sector in his first lap was absolutely diabolical. Come around the final couple of corners. This is actually 2 corners, you treat it as one, but this little kink is actually turn number 15. Onto the main straight we go, running out of ERS. DRS flap open now, over the line we go, not in the 29s. Doesn't actually improve, and that is concerning. 28.4 could get leapfrogged by his teammate, and that maybe just opens the door for Geek on his final flying lap.
Geek is going to be looking at those times right now and just thinking about how he can improve these last few sectors here. He still has to make up a second pretty much to try to be anywhere near fighting for pole position here. As Geek does need to either of these two guys need to be outscoring each other for the win. Blue diving into the pits it seems, and it looks like everyone's just going to be chilling out for a moment and waiting for the clock to tick down.
Joe is finding the time that his teammate wasn't. Yeah, you saw it. 0.3 per second up, almost going through the first couple of sectors. This should be in the low 28s, maybe the 27s. Oh, 27.996. Half a tenth down on Cameron Sell. So we will have a battle for pole position, you would imagine, as Joe gets within half a tenth of a second. And it is Cameron Sell from Joe now ahead of Matty. The two Williams very much in the wrong order as Iceboy comes around the final corner to complete a flying lap. Was 7th, jumps up into 5th. Couple of tenths found. 28.6 pushes Geek down into 7th as Alpha has made a bit of a blunder on his flying lap and will probably not improve. You can see ERS light flashing. We'll jump into the pits, you would imagine, for a brand new set of boots for the final runs of the qualifying session. Just under 5 minutes left to go.
Joe's got to be storming around the track right now, trying to get back into the pits now. Matty didn't really seem to be improving. I think he's just going in. Yeah, he is. That's without a doubt. That's good. An in lap there. But yeah, these guys have got to just make their way around and slap on a fresh set of soft tyres and see what they can do with them. So yeah, now just ice blowing out on the track, and Joe just making his leisurely tour around the Sakir circuit. A very pretty circuit, I must admit. The painting around the outside is quite nice, and I do quite enjoy it. Also a fun track to drive, obviously, as well. This section right here, you can find a few tenths just out of nowhere, really, and you just stick with it. As there's only 2 corners really after these S's. Well, 3 corners. Really,
yeah, first race back in 2004. 2014, we saw the night race. I wonder if for 2025 we might see some shake-up again, but it has become one of the modern classics, you would say, although in recent years the racing hasn't been as exciting last year and this year, notably, but 2022 was pretty good. Verstappen versus Leclerc, first race of these new ground effect cars. We had a good duel, and obviously the start of 2021, Hamilton versus Verstappen, with the controversy of the overtaking off the circuit and then having to give the place back. It was Hamilton that won. Probably should have won the championship as well, but we won't get into a petty debate about what happened in Abu Dhabi 2021, and we certainly won't get into a debate of what happened Abu Dhabi BUSR Winter Series on F1 2022. Getting ready to go though. 3 minutes left to go. I think Geek is going to be the first to set a flying lap, although it might be his teammate. Geek could find himself coming across a bit of traffic. No, he is the second Ferrari, taking a horrendous line off the road through turn 9 and 10. That doesn't bode well for his qualifying lap if he's making a mess of it on his out lap. So slightly concerning there. Core down in 16th, detached a little bit from the back of the pack, a second off P13, and we'll be hoping to find a big chunk of time here.
Yeah, he's got to be trying to think about where he can place himself. Obviously, I would believe that a lobby 2 driver making his way up into lobby 1, it can be a bit daunting, and going up against the likes of Cameron Russell, Joe and Matty, it doesn't it doesn't feel too reassuring when all of a sudden they're about 2 seconds off you, 2.5 seconds off you. But he's making the most of it, and that's what really matters around here. And you never know, he might just show himself up in lobby 1 in 2024 winter. Yeah,
the first sector wasn't overly competitive, but if you look at the minimap, Geek coming across traffic going down into turn 1, Cora's backed out of it, I think, going through turn number 9. So if we cut on to Geek, please, going round turn 3 and up towards turn 4, we'll see what the first of our championship contenders can do on their final qualifying lap. Interestingly enough, got the 2 Williams in front on the circuit. We'll see what Geek's first sector split time. We're looking for a mid 28 as we come across the delta now. It is a 28.6. That's competitive. A quarter of a second found. The Williams gets out of the way, but would have cost him a little bit of time, you would imagine, with the dirty air coming down into turn number 8 now. He's got to try and do what he didn't do on his out lap and get turns 9 and 10 right. He went a little bit wide, got caught up on the curb, and that spat him out into the runoff area.
You'd think maybe that Joe would maybe. Oh, that was a very good slipstream indeed from the AlphaTauri. We're not really sure which one it is, but I think that might be Willie Blobster, actually, for that matter. Is obviously his ex-teammate. Now it's the enemy camp. Some may say. I'm surprised, actually, to be honest. I thought Joe would, and he's found 0.3 of a second there as well in the sector 2. He's looking quite good now. He does have to find pretty much a second here, but Cameron Russell pretty much just gets right in his way. It
was Willie Blobs, actually. It was Willie Blobs, so we know. Yeah, so we know what was going on. Yeah. Geek runs wide out of the final corner, lucky not to pick up a corner carrying penalty. Would have certainly been compromised as he comes over the line. Still finds 0.4, but is only 4th on the grid. That'll be a maximum for him. He'll be absolutely steaming at his former teammate Willie Blobs, who completely cut him off going down the back straight. Probably a little bit of miscommunication. I think Geek's probably going to return the favour to Cameron Searle by giving him a little dash of slipstream. We are now 20 seconds left to go. These are going to be the laps that have got to count. Geek is done. We'll be finishing on a 28.4, and he expects he's going to get bumped down a little bit, although Willie Blobs with a 5-place grid penalty most likely will start behind his former teammate, and I don't think they're going to be particularly friendly after this. Cameron Searle 6 milliseconds down through the first sector, picked up a little bit of a tow from Geek, but yeah, the Ferrari wasn't too much in the business of playing games down that back straight. We've got to wait to see what the 2 Williams can manage as well. The 2 McLarens coming through the final couple of corners as well, out of position. Checkered flag is now out, so these are the times that are going to decide the grid. Assassin around the final corner. His teammate Alpha might get a little bit of a tow. Assassin over the line, only a 30.4. Alpha with a bigger improvement up into the low 29s, 29.2, up just inside that top 10. Assassin will be disappointed down in 14th. Who is next? Aria finding a 1/3 of a 10th through the first sector. Blue Fire's backed out. That's going to be 15th for the second. Red Bull driver Jaraki up to the line. What can the Alfa Romeo do? From 7th, goes up 1 place into 6th, finds another 10th of a second. 28.6. Cameron Sell flying in the first couple of sectors. This surely is going to be pole position for the AlphaTauri unless one of the Williams drivers can pull it out of the bag. To a serious degree. Round the final couple of corners we go. This is going to be a mid-27, you would imagine, to smash the pole position. Yes, it is. 27.7, another 2/10 found. Geek over the line. That is his session done. Zizi finding a bit of time as well. Jumps up into 8th place, just ahead of Alpha. Matty, here we go over the line. Does improve, but stays 3rd. And our championship protagonists are going to be lining up 3rd and 4th on the grid, you would imagine. Tom Hug just sneaks inside the top 10. 1 millisecond behind Alpha. And an invalidation for James. Joe into the pits as well, so he messed it up. Tried to give a slipstream to his teammate, you would guess. Willie Blobs will be last over the line. BUSR has invalidated. Did find a bit of time. The AlphaTauri, the final AlphaTauri, coming round the final corner. Aria improves to a 29.0, pushes Tom Hug out of the top 10. Willie Blobs doesn't improve, stays 5th. And there is our grid. Cameron Searle on pole ahead of Joe, but it's the 2 championship protagonists on row 2.
Yep, second row for Matty and Geek. It's going to be quite interesting to see how Joe is going to respond to this, because I feel like Joe's going to be trying to help Matty as much as possible. So we did have him in the interview room last week. He did say that he'll be trying to help Matty as much as possible with his championship fight here. So maybe we could see Joe just trying to hold up Geek as much as possible. But Cameron Searle, I think they're just going to let him run. I think they're just going to let him just go, and they'll just fight for P2. I don't see a world in where Cameron is much of a threat, to be honest, unless all of a sudden someone DNFs. From
what we saw in qualifying, I think Cameron Searle is going to help out Geek as much as he can. His ex-teammate Willie Blobs certainly didn't do that. Bit of a miscommunication down the back straight. Thankfully, it didn't cost Geek any time or body work for that matter. So he is going to be 4th on the grid. While we have a little interlude, let's show you what Special Effect do to help people in the gaming community.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
A fantastic cause, I'm sure you will agree. And here at the BUSR, very proud to support Special Effect. Into the business, though. This is what we're here for. The race, the championship decider between not Cameron Searle, he should be in it, between Matty and Geek. 3rd and 4th on the grid. They're teammates, or technically teammates, because I think Cameron Searle is going to act as a teammate for Geek. They're going to be helping them out. We could be in for a barnstormer in Bahrain to decide the Spring 2024 champion.
Yep. So it looks like right now, as it stands, Matty needs to finish. If Geek finishes 4th, Matty finishes 2nd. Anything higher for Geek is a championship win for Geek. So if he finishes 3rd and Matty finishes 2nd, Geek still is able to clinch the championship here. So he's definitely got this in a good position for him to try and fight for this. The most that Geek needs if Matty does come first is 3rd with a fastest lap or just 2nd.
I do have to bring something to everybody's attention that I've been informed. I didn't pick this up at the end of the session. We saw Willie Blobs pick up a 5-place grid penalty for the contact with Geek. Geek has also got a 5-place grid penalty. So it's not going to be 4th on the grid. It's going to be 8th, I think, because he goes first, so he drops back 5, and then Willie Blobs will go instead. We've got a few people leaving the session, which could be causing some issues. Hopefully they manage to take control of their car. Obviously, formation lap isn't on, so we won't be able to know what happens there. Getting ready to go, though. It is going to be Matty with a little bit of a margin to his teammate behind. I hope we're not restarting because some people failed to get in, and I hope the grid penalties if they were fake grid penalties, because that is something in the game. If the game thinks you're blocking, you can pick up a 5-place grid penalty, which isn't. You obviously weren't blocking. So if that needs sorting, we'll have to wait and see what happened. I think it was for the contact with Woolly Blobs, which seems a little bit harsh on Geek's end, to be honest, unless it was for a separate incident. But we're getting ready. We're waiting. Jaraki back in the session, we're being told. Excellent news for the Alfa Romeo driver, who does get bumped up a position as well. I can't wait for the start of this race.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting one here. Obviously, it isn't just about the championship. Obviously, it is going to be a lot about the championship, but we do have fights going on all across the sheet points here. So we've got others coming in for let's see, where is everyone standing right now? Assassin and Alpha, that's going to be a fight to be watching out for. Obviously, both of them fighting around the bottom of the pack, not really where you'd be expecting them to be standing, but could be seeing some fighting there. Willie Blobs and Joe obviously in for a fight for P4 as well, and now we are in for the race.
Getting ready. 5 red lights for the final time this season in the spring of 2024. It is lights out and away we go. Even Stevens out in front. Good start for Jaraki from 5th place on the grid, but it is going to be Cameron Searle leading us down into turn number 1. Joe, in fact, with a brilliant start into the lead. Up the inside we go. Who's going to be later on the break? Cameron Searle swings it around the outside. Maybe a bit of contact between the two Williams drivers as the Aston Martin of Zizi goes very wide over the curves going through turn number 1. But it is still as we were out in front. 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the same order as they were before. Geek has managed to get back up into 5th place, sat just in front of that big gaggle of cars battling over 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Zizi trying to swing it around the outside of Alpha, but the McLaren trying to retaliate on the inside and get that place back. Jaraki falls off the road, loses out to Ari and potentially a couple of places further back, and that is the Ferrari. Thankfully not the one that's in the championship battle, but it is Notakomo Core out and at the back of the pack facing the wrong way. Cameron Searle 0.5 of a second clear of the two Williams. Then comes Iceboy and Geek.
Geek having an absolutely monstrous start there, getting back up into P5 pretty much to start ending the first sector where he qualified just 1 place behind Iceboy, two tenths away, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to be able to get away quite easily here. Joe now dropping back to 7 tenths behind Cameron Searle, but Cameron Searle going to be leading this race and at the end of lap 1, as long as nothing happens right here. Geek still just sniffing around the back of Iceboy's gearbox. Looks like he's probably going to go for an overtake right now, and he's now side by side with Iceboy, now taking the lead on the back straight there and getting past rather nicely for P4 in this championship. And now it is now down to Geek and Matty against each other here at Sakir.
Ideal start, back up into 4th place, 4 places gained. Fastest lap for Cameron Searle on the hard compound tyres. If we can see what tyre compounds everybody on, that would be ideal. Nice even split. The top 3 all on the hards. Geek going for the alternate strategy on the mediums. That could be interesting later on in the race. He's got to make progress now, and he started off very nicely. Woolly Blobs and Zizi debating 10th and 11th through turns 1 and 2. And it's the Alpha Tauri, another driver that picked up a penalty in qualifying, getting a place back. But here comes the Aston Martin trying to recover down into turn number 4, swinging it around the outside. A little bit of a tentative lunge for the Aston Martin of Zizi, and somehow they don't make contact, and Woolly Blobs is back up into the top 10.
Zizi and Woolly Blobs, they're just fighting around. They can't really go side by side through the S's. It is possible, but it doesn't really look to be a prime opportunity to do so.
I think Jaraki is disconnected. You can see the ghosted Alfa Romeo. They're lost out to Alpha. Now BUSR. I think Woolly Blobs is going to come through as well. Disastrous. I think there was a little bit of netcode contact that put Woolly Blobs into a slide, but that is terrible for Jaraki. Does he have a front wing there? We can't quite see. I think he does.
I think it may have just dropped a little bit, but I think he's still good. No, yeah, I really can't see it. Oh no, okay, yeah, still a good bit of his front wing there, but it does look like Geek has now dropped back from Matty to 1.3 seconds, so he has been out of DRS range at the end of this lap here, which is not going to be ideal for him to stay within this fight, as obviously the DRS is very powerful round here. 3 DRS straights to try and prime your overtaking opportunities around the circuit. Obviously, there's a lot of straights as well, so ERS deployment is going to be crucial around to see how you're going to be able to deploy it in the right places at the right times and try to get the overtakes done. Jaraki and it's James. I'm not sure if Jaraki's actually racing this, but it looks like he's just around there to be there. Now, Joe and Matty still right behind each other. Joe's going to be giving Matty a very nice tow, trying to get him away from Geek and out of that DRS range as much as possible, as Geek is going to be pushing flat out on his ERS deployments, and Matty going to be conserving it as much as possible. Cameron Searle in the lead right now, 1.3 seconds in front of Joe, and setting up some very nice purple sectors indeed for the Alfa Romeo driver.
I think the way this is going to work for Geek is he's going to have to beat Joe, because Matty's going to be given that place, you would imagine, at some stage in the Grand Prix. And if Matty finishes second, that is the championship for the Williams driver. Geek's going to have to finish on the podium, you would think, in this race, unless Cameron Sell gets involved as well. At the moment, not making a big impression on those two Williams drivers, actually losing time 1.6 seconds. And as Iceboy and Aria just sat right underneath the rearing of that Ferrari, though I think the Mercedes might be about to drop out of DRS range. This overtake for second place looks like it's going to be a matter of time now. Joe getting out of the way for his teammate, and then his fight will be trying to hold on to that third place ahead of Geek for the remaining 26 laps.
They're going to be trying to build this comfortable lead, a comfortable gap as much as possible. Iceboy and Aria still on the back of that McLaren, but it looks like Willie Blobs and the BUSR are going to be having a bit of a scrap down into turn 14 now. Willie Blobs is trying to get as much of that slipstream as possible down into the last corner, but he will have DRS on this straight, and Jareki has rejoined the session now. Going to be right down at the back of the grid, not where he really wants to be for the final race for the Alfa Romeo of this season for in the BUSR here. Was that Iceboy just trying to be looking on the inside though? But Matty does seem to be just staying on the back of Joe, trying to be within that DRS range of Joe as much as possible.
Yeah, Matty knows he's got this under control at this stage. He can get past Joe whenever he wants, as long as Cameron Sell doesn't try and get involved as well. It will be his championship. Geek is the driver under pressure, still losing time, 1.7 seconds. The mediums obviously not working for that Ferrari, as Assassin is the first driver to peel off into the pits and put the hard compound tyres on. Not sure if there was any contact there. I'd be surprised if Assassin's going to try and go to the end. That would be a mammoth stint, but down into 16th. Been a disappointing evening's action for the McLaren driver. Geek still under a little bit of pressure. 8/10 back to Iceboy with Aria sat right underneath that rear wing of the Mercedes. Alfa going with them as well. A bit of a tap at the back, I think, in this back of shot between Willie Blobs and BUSR going through turn number 10. Nothing comes of it, but a bit of a wobble for the Haas driver, managing to recover and hold on to 8th place. 2.3 seconds the gap out in front.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a quite the fight for the ages here, and Iceboy now pretty much dropping out of DRS range from Geek, and Geek is going to be freed from the Mercedes threat behind him and is going to be free to push onto the Williams of Matty. Jareki in blue now getting a little bit scrappy there. Jareki almost putting his front nose underneath the gearbox of the Red Bull, but he's going to be backing off just a little bit and just waiting for his DRS opportunity down on the main straight. Going to be about 300 kilometers an hour down this main straight here, and going to be going quite well indeed. Tom Hogg on ZZ right there as well. ZZ getting past, Tom Hogg getting past, and Jareki getting past Blue Fire down into the braking zone of turn 1. But Blue just hanging on round the outside of Jareki, but Jareki is able to keep that exit and gets a very nice exit indeed against Blue Fire, and Blue Fire is now just left in the dust fire, already half a second back from Jareki.
Into the pits comes Core down in 17th. Been a disappointing evening's work for the second Ferrari, and will be in for, I think, yes, a front wing change and a new set of hard compound tyres. Second driver to come in and will drop to the back of the pack. The purple helmet not helping him set any purple sectors, unfortunately. Returning to the lead battle, Cameron Sell continues to check out in front. 2.7 seconds the margin now. Matty seeming pretty comfortable just to sit behind his teammate in the opening salvos, and Geek, that gap has stabilised a little bit around 1.6 seconds. Iceboy just outside DRS range, which could leave him vulnerable to the group behind of Aria, Alfa, BUSR and Willie Blobs. Tom Hogg we saw down the main straight getting up into top 10 at the expense of ZZ's Aston Martin. Jareki also trying to recover from that disconnect we saw earlier on. I'm interested by Matty's tactics here. I feel like he is probably quicker than Joe. If he gets through, he could probably drag Joe away from Geek, which would benefit him because Joe will be the driver Geek needs to overtake.
Yeah, I think the only thing really is trying to pick the right opportunities to do so. Matty's just with DRS sitting behind Joe. Yeah, it's really just about how he's going to be attacking this, because obviously if he gets it wrong, then all of a sudden that Geek is going to close that gap immensely and be within that DRS striking zone. And Willie Blobs around the outside of BUSR here. BUSR just barely being able to hold on to into turn 3, and BUSR getting away from Willie Blobs and trying to fight for another day against this gaggle of cars here, all with DRS. Alfa currently in P7 fighting against Aria. These two have had their fair share of fights in the past, but they've actually been rather clean most of the time for the most part. Alfa now just sniffing around the back of Aria, still within that very much within that slipstream range really, and going to be trying to deploy as much of that ERS as possible for the next DRS straight, the third and final DRS straight of this lap. ZZ and Tom Hug now in front, just locking up just a little bit there, I think was from the Mercedes driver into turn 10. For P10, going to be down the main straight. Tom Hug without DRS, ZZ with DRS, trying to be looking for a move around the inside, but couldn't really make it work there into turn 11.
Gap out in front continues to extend. 3.2 seconds. Unfortunately, it seems to be a bit of a geek train. Dropping back once again as those medium tyres probably go past 25% wear, and he hits the second phase of that tyre. 2 seconds the gap back to Matty now. Those two Williams are fairly comfortable in second and third at the moment. It's going to be up to Geek to try and make a move. ZZ we had in the bottom of the shot there. Little look up the inside of Tom Hug into 14. The other Aston Martin is on the defensive rather than on the offensive as Jaraki trying to recover. And I think James might be pulling into the pits. No, just takes a very weird line out of the final corner. Obviously trying not to hold up Jaraki too much. He pulls over to the right-hand side and lets the Alfa Romeo breeze past the red carpet. Rolled out very, very nicely. Indeed, Geek still under pressure. And there's contact, and that is Tom Hug and ZZ. They were battling earlier on. The Aston Martin's out of the session, thrown into the Nikita Mazepin wall, and we have a safety car on lap number 7. That is going to benefit Geek in 4th place, bringing back towards the pack. I wonder who's going to come into the pits, but that just looked like a little bit of side-to-side contact with the Aston Martin firmly coming off second best.
Geek is going to be massively benefiting off this. As long as Joe and if Joe and Matty pit here and Geek pits as well, then that means that Geek is going to get an excellent read off of this, and he's going to be on those hard tyres for a lot longer. Whereas Joe and Matty are probably going to have to switch onto the medium tyres and make it work as much as possible, unless he wants to stay out. This is a very, very badly timed pit stop for the likes of the Williams drivers in P2 and 3 respectively right now. Yeah,
absolutely. Those guys on hard tyres are really under pressure. This is a do or die moment, especially for Matty. What do you do in this scenario? Geek is a free pit stop. You could probably take it. You'd imagine Geek on a brand new set of tyres can manage to work his way back through the field, and then it's just the pressure on which Williams comes into the pits. Joe might have to be the sacrificial lamb out in second place for Matty to come in and leave him out to dry on those hard compound tyres. Cameron Searle, I wonder what he'll do. He's under no pressure out in front of him. He can do what he likes, and he likes what he's doing. Will we see the AlphaTauri pull into the pits? Well, he's certainly moving over. Will this be the old dummy that we've seen before? No. So he's going to get rid of those hard compound tyres. Are both Williams coming in? No. Yes, they are. Yeah. But they do the switcheroo on the pit entry. That was beautifully crafted. Through goes Matty. Joe, though, is going to drop behind Geek, you would imagine, having to queue behind his teammate. But it'll be interesting to see what tyres everyone goes on. The Williams goes straight through the AlphaTauri. Thank you, ghosting system. Medium tyres for Matty is definitely going to have to stop again. James picks up a 5-second penalty, and Joe is going to lose a whole host of places. Look at them all filing past him. Geek now up into championship winning position. Ice Boy, Ari, and Alpha now a buffer between himself and the second Williams.
That was an impeccably timed pit stop entry there from the Williams drivers, getting Matty just into the pit entry before Joe, and having Matty keep his lead in second place, and now Joe having to fight his way back into 7th place. Could we see the tyres of choice for each of these drivers? So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how people are going to be managing this. And yeah, everyone's just gone onto the tyres that they weren't on at the start of this race. So it's going to be a fight for the end probably, but is it going to work for these guys that have slapped on the medium tyre? Is it going to work? Because that tyre, we saw Geek was struggling after lap 8. So is it going to be the case that we're going to see a 2-stop from these guys, and Geek could try and extend his lead as much as possible on the hard tyres? But I don't think it's going to work. It's 20 laps on the hard tyres could be a bit of an ask.
I wonder if Geek's made a little bit of an error here, because these guys on mediums got to do 20 laps to the end. That is not happening. They are going to be coming in for a second time. I wonder if Geek could have put another set of mediums on and then use softs at the end of the race. That I think would be the preferred strategy call. Obviously, I'm not the one in championship winning position, and I certainly wouldn't be if I was driving. But I question the decision a little bit. He has got a buffer to Joe behind, but Joe, we know, likes a bit of a scrap, so could force his way through those cars fairly quickly. But he does have Ice Boy on the mediums directly behind, who I think will be chomping at the bit to get up onto the podium. What has happened to Alpha, meanwhile, dropping down into 9th? That's another free position for Joe. We didn't catch it. Woody blobs through as well. Was that just a mistake? A very lazy off-track maybe from the McLaren? Poorly timed, down into 9th place, and big mistake if that was what happened there.
Not really sure what happened. And maybe it was just a timing thing, because I couldn't see Alpha going off track or anything. So maybe it was just that the scoreboard hadn't updated there. So maybe he's actually in ninth. Because I was going to say, Joe and Alpha, they've had their history before. It can get messy between those two drivers. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise there for Joe. And now he's going to be fighting against the likes of the Red Bull and the Mercedes of Aria and Iceball respectively, going to be trying to make up as many laps as possible. Everyone is now bunched up. Everyone's now bunched up? No, everyone's not bunched up, Alex. Assassin
where,
and Core still,
yeah,
still to be closing some gaps up.
This is where we need some kind of team radio where we can get live thoughts on what some of our drivers are thinking. I want to know what Geek's thought process was. I want to know what Joe's going to be thinking. I want to know what Cameron Searle's plans in all of this are. Is he just going to waltz out in front and take the victory and hope that maybe the two drivers behind crash? I doubt it would get that severe between Geek and Matty. As it stands at the moment, for everybody in the chat that will be watching or will be wanting to know what happens, Geek currently sat in third place. Matty would have to finish second with fastest lap, which I don't think he currently holds because Cameron Searle is Cameron Searle. So if it stays like this, Geek in third, Matty will have to either win the race or pick up the fastest lap and stay in second.
Cameron Searle also having a bit of a track record for leaving the safety car to leaving away from the safety car line quite early as well. So maybe we could see Cameron just bolting it down. Probably not the end of this lap, but maybe the end of next lap, as Core has still got to be catching up to the back of this lap. Maybe actually no, I think he's got it. I think he's able to catch to the back of this, and maybe we might see the safety car come in very, very soon indeed. Although by the looks of it, maybe not.
It can get called in very late. I've had it called in round the final corner before, so don't count your chickens just yet. The game does like to bring it in whenever it chooses, really. The Ferrari at the back catching at a fairly sedate pace, a second sort of dropping every time we see that delta, although it's coming down a little bit now. He is going to catch the back of the pack. So are we going to get that beautiful message at the top of the screen? Yes, we are. Yes. And safety car is in this lap. Giggity, giggity, everybody. Let's go racing for the second time in the season finale. Cameron Searle, like you said, has been a bit of a fiend for going very early, but I think he's going to try and mix it up today because he is backing off quite a bit. Everybody's caught the back of the snake. It's now down to Cameron Searle, the outright leader, but not in the championship, to bolt. And he is gone, but Matty seems to have gone with him fairly nicely as well. And we're underway to start lap 10 as we cut the beam. And it's the Alpha Tower, Matty leading. Geek, very good restart on the back of the Williams. Matty's lost a little bit of time going through the final couple of corners. Here we go. This could be the first time the two championship contenders have had a battle in this race so far. Geek pulls over to the outside of the track. What is he going to do? Who's going to be last to the late breakers? He tries to swing it around the outside. Bit of contact. Hopefully there's no damage there. Ghosting going on as well. That was the first potential flashpoint between these two drivers. Matty holding on to second place for the time being. But that was a very, very hairy moment for Geek. He just has to stay where he is, and he picks up the championship. No adverse risks needing to be taken further down. No real changes of position, but I think Jaraki trying to get up into 10th place and gets past the Mercedes of Tom Hug on those hard compound tyres, but it's still Cameron Searle 1.3 seconds clear of Matty, with Geek, Iceboy and Ara continuing to hold on to their places in the top 5. Down the inside we go with Joe. He's trying to get up towards the Ferrari as quickly as possible to help out his teammate. Beautifully executed move on the inside of turn number 8. Late, but it was perfectly done, and that is 5th place for the second Williams.
As not a place that you normally see an overtake being made by Joe there. Geek is closer to Geek is closer to Iceboy than he is to Matty right now. So Iceboy is still within the striking distance of Geek right now. So he's going to be defending and attacking at the same time here, but Geek has now dropped out of DRS range. Obviously, it won't be activated until the end of the end of next lap now. But that does mean that Matty does have a little bit of a safety net here. But Joe is now on the back of Iceboy and is going to be trying to get that overtake done as quickly as possible to try help out his teammate and try to make any kind of move down where possible. Battling for the wooden spoon, these two drivers. Assassin, a bit of a fish out of water right now. Meant to be fighting Alpha for P4 in the championship, but it doesn't look to be going his way now. Iceboy now sniffing on the back rear end of Geek now. Geek is not wanting this Mercedes to be anywhere near him at this point. He's wanting to act freely and push for Matty to just get anywhere near the front of of that Williams car, but obviously he doesn't really need to do that at this point. Actually, for that matter, Geek is comfortable in third place for him to win the championship. Actually, for that matter.
Well, he's got to be careful. He's struggling to fire those hard compound tyres up. Not overly surprising, but once he puts some distance between himself and Iceboy, he'll probably feel a lot better about his chances. But that a big boot could be put through that little bit of hope that he's got, because Joe could be getting past the Mercedes of Iceboy in the next couple of seconds. To the inside we go. Is this going to be a clean move as well? Up we go. Through goes the Williams and up into 4th place. Iceboy trying to get the old switchback on the left-hand side, but unable to get it alongside, and falls down into 5th spot. And now this is going to be the key battle that I think is going to go on for the next few laps. It's Geek versus Joe. Joe on the mediums, Geek on the hards, and Joe has seemingly got a little bit more pace at the moment than the Ferrari. So Geek has got to have his wits about him. Got to play the long game. If he loses this, he will be out of championship winning position. But as DRS is enabled, he can't get it back if he goes on to the softer compounder tyres later on. And this could be the opportunity for Joe straight away in the DRS and slipstream. No DRS enabled, in fact, on this lap. Battle behind. BUSR getting past Daria. Iceboy's going to have a little nip at the back of the Williams of Joe, but stays in 5th place.
They're now going to be having DRS here, and obviously, and BUSR and Ari going side by side for very long into the exit of out the exit of turn 3. But now it's this fight, Joe against Geek. Joe just on very close to the back of Geek here, 1/10 away, 2/10 away from the Ferrari driver. It's going to be an incredibly close battle for these two, coming through these next few corners here. I would assume that Geek might have a little bit more ERS than Joe now, as Joe's been trying to fight his way up through the field. But you never know, these drivers are going to be incredibly smart with how they deploy it. They're pretty much on the same level here, so it's just going to be a DRS fight. And Joe going around almost through the outside there of Geek, but just barely trying to make it work. But is now just slips back and is less than 1/10 away from Geek there.
Big mistake, locking up and losing some time as a result. Up the inside goes BUSR. Aria and himself continuing to squabble over 6th and 7th. Woolly Blobs takes a little bit out of the rear tyre of the Haas as they tap wheel to front wing as they battle for 6th, 7th and 8th into the blind turn 13. Maybe a little bit of contact again as some dust is thrown up behind the Red Bull, but Aria up into 6th place ahead of BUSR and Woolly Blobs. Alpha, the car behind, dropping out of DRS range with Jaraki right on the back. Here we go. Aria going defensive, interesting down into the final couple of corners. That's not the optimal line. I think Joe further forward is going to be trying to get up into 3rd place behind Geek. This battle for 6th, 7th and 8th will continue to rage on. You can see the Haas pulling out to the right hand side. Woolly Blobs maybe trying to get involved, but this could be for the championship. Joe up the inside. Geek doesn't fight it too hard. He knows he can play the long game. You're going to try and hang it around the outside though, but I think Joe is just going to cruise straight past, and Geek, with nothing to answer for, drops down into 4th place, and Joe is up into the position that'll give his teammate this championship in a few laps time.
With another helping of DRS also through that straight as well, just helping him pull out of Geek there. But now it's going to be Matty trying to be dropping back a little bit, maybe to try help Joe get the DRS and get himself clear of her. But it's now this 3-way battle here. Aria, Woolly Blobs and BUSR all fighting for these positions here, and Aria just making a very bold move down into turn 7 there, no, turn 8, sorry. Through those last corners. Not really a place where you'd be trying to make an overtake, but it can work. Lock up there from BUSR as well, but it's going to be Woolly Blobs and Aria just trying to fight it out for P7 now.
Well, not just Jaraki involved as well. Aria started the lap in 6th place, now finds himself down in 9th as the Alfa Romeo of Jaraki sends it up the inside into turn number 11. Terrible few corners for the Red Bull. Going to try and swing it up on the outside with the switchback, but unable to make it work. Woolly Blobs did make a double overtake down into turn 1, lost that place once again to BUSR, who got back up into 6th, and then it is Jaraki trying to recover from the early disconnect. Geek has managed to stick like glue to the back of the Williams over the course of this lap, and could potentially think about getting 3rd place back on the run down into turn 1. A little bit wide through turn 15 though. Hopefully he wasn't over the line picking up a corner cutting penalty. Joe goes all the way over to the pit wall on the right hand side, making his intentions firmly clear to the driver behind. Is Geek going to dummy him over to the inside? No, opts to sit behind for the time being. Got to be careful of that Mercedes of Iceboy, who is lurking behind them as well. And then we have this brilliant scrap between what is 5 cars. BUSR, Woolly Blobs, Jaraki, Aria and Alpha cruising up to the back of them as well in the McLaren, squabbling for 6th place.
This fight here really providing the entertainment of the night now after the safety car restart. All 5 of these drivers here with very good contention of P6, but BUSR just being able to hold up against Woolly Blobs even without DRS is probably going to be burning through quite a bit of his battery now. But these drivers here are all going to be just fighting wherever they can, just trying to force a mistake out of each other and just try to capitalize off any kind of error that any of these drivers put out. And there's now just going to be a fight for the death against all these guys. It looks like, and a bit of a lock up there as well from the Alfa Romeo drivers, probably going to be giving Arya a good opportunity for him to make any kind of move, looking around the outside of Jaraki, but he's going to be backing off just a little bit as everyone else has a DRS deployment apart from BUSR, who's leading this train 3.5 seconds behind the likes of Iceboy.
Cameron Searle continues to be comfortable out in front. 3.9 seconds the gap between himself and Matty in second. Geek is playing this pretty smart, you think, just using the DRS to get dragged along, keep him in contention until everyone comes in for their final pit stops, and we'll see a true charge towards the end of the race. Woolly Blobs will look at the inside of BUSR into 14, thinks better of it, and will use the DRS to his advantage down the main straight to get up into 6th place. Good recovery from that penalty going into the race after that interesting collision between himself and Geek. Big weave over. What is going on there for BUSR? That was very, very bizarre. Jaraki's going to try and make it 3 wide as well down into turn 1. The Alfa Romeo not quite as confident on the brakes as the AlphaTauri, but he's going to try and force his way through at the expense of the Haas of BUSR. Somehow they're still in the same order. Woolly Blobs is up into 6th, but BUSR staying ahead of the Alfa Romeo. It looked like he was certain to be losing that place with a weird jink in the middle of the track going down the main straight. Arya trying to sniff around as well, pick up a couple of places that were lost a few laps ago. Look at the oscillations as the Alfa Romeo clatters over the curbs on the outside, but thankfully doesn't put the car off too much and can stay in 8th place. Alfa behind, little look to the inside maybe to try and get up into 9th place at the expense of Arya, but they stay in this formation. This quintet continues to squabble over 6th place.
Yeah, that was a that was almost a bit of a moment there from BUSR, just a bit of a almost forcing Woolly Blobs into the pit wall there, but it is kept as clean as possible, one may say, through these last few corners, these next couple of corners, and everyone is lined up rather neatly, actually, for that matter. Nobody, it's a bit of a concertina effect, and everyone's kind of grouping up and then spreading out as you go through the corners. Everyone's pretty much on the same pace. These guys here. It's actually quite interesting to watch. Now BUSR is actually going to be dropping back out of DRS range for Woolly Blobs, and Woolly Blobs actually going to be able to fight a little bit more up front, but he's got to make 4 seconds up to the likes of Iceboy. Might I add, by the way, Joe within DRS range of Matty.
I was just about to point that one out. Matty has made a big mistake somewhere. He's lost a second on the previous lap. Joe's cruised up to the back of his teammate, leaving Geek very much in his wake. 1.6 seconds the gap back now. BUSR loses another couple of spots. 3 wide down into turn 1. Jaraki goes through. Arya, I think, is going to try and confirm 8th place as well. Alfa trying to get involved too in that McLaren with his teammate. Further down the order, big of a wobble, and Alfa is the big loser there, caught up on the rear end of the Haas and facing sideways, going through turn number 3 and drops off the back of that queue. Tom Hug maybe going to try and take this place. This battle continues between Arya and Jaraki. A little bit of a squeeze over to the right-hand side. Bit of contact to boot as well, but Jaraki holds on to 7th place for the time being. Can try and charge towards that second AlphaTauri of Woolly Blobs. Were we going to see the lunge? No, we aren't. We're not going to see the Joe move that we've seen a couple of times down into turn number 8, not 10.
Alfa giving BUSR a little bit of a love kiss, but didn't really pay out in the end. Alfa just now drops miles back behind the likes of the Haas driver, and now might I add to the top of the position sheet right now, we do have Geek pretty much a second and a half out of Joe, and Joe and Matty are able to just claw their way through this field, through the track, and just keep themselves away from Geek as much as possible. They are losing time to Cameron. And Cameron is having a bit of a lonely race, might I add, as all the other guys seem to be having quite a nice scrap for the P6 and P2 respectively. To be honest, Cameron's just kind of leading his own charge as he normally does.
I think Matty's struggling a bit here. The gap between himself and Joe a couple of laps ago was 1.8 seconds, with Geek a further second back. Geek is now the car 1.8 seconds back. This battle continues between the Red Bull of Arya and the Alfa Romeo of Jaraki. Jaraki being overtaken with the help of DRS, but trying to send it around the outside, but unable to get enough of that car alongside to deserve a bit of racing room. And Arya's back up into 7th place after losing a handful of places a few laps ago. Was stick dropped down, I think, into 9th place. Jaraki's going to try and get this back into turn number 4. We've seen some instances in this kind of corner over the years. A little bit of a wobble for the Red Bull over the curb on the exit, but does hold on to 7th place. Back to the lead battle, though. Geek is catching the 2 Williams. I think Matty's really starting to struggle in those mediums. We saw it happen to Geek before the safety car came out, as he double locks up into turn 9 and 10 there. I think Matty may be struggling a little bit, and that could be the opportunity that Geek needs to get back into a position to take this championship.
Yeah, Matty's got to be thinking of probably going for a bit of a undercut maybe for a pit stop here. As he has been out on these medium tires for about 9 laps now, which is a substantial amount, about a third of the race distance for this now. And Arya and Jareki just getting still side by side through these corners here, but Arya just being able to take that lead, take the lead from Jareki and stay up there into in 7th place. And these two drivers have been absolutely at it the entire time. Woody Blob's off in his own now. BUSR just drops back, and now but BUSR's still in the back of this.
He's
and
Joe. Joe's in the pits, I think. Joe's Joe in the box. Sorry to cut in there. A few drivers further back coming in, but Joe is the first of our leading contenders to blink and put on a new set of tyres. What is it going to be? Probably another set of mediums. Yes, it is. The yellow striped tyres go on that blue Williams car, and Joe's going to be released down to probably the back of the pack. It was Jareki that came in as well. I think those are hard tyres. No, I think they're the yellow striped mediums as well. So both drivers putting on the same compound of tyres and set on their way again. You would imagine Geek, Matty are going to have to come in on this lap as well.
Yeah, no. Geek's still on those hard tyres. Matty on the mediums. Matty's definitely going to have to pit soon if anything is to be made of this race now. Joe is going to have to putting in some major times here to try catch the pit stop window of Geek and Matty now. Cameron Stull probably also going to be thinking about pitting very soon as well. He has built up quite a nice lead to the other drivers, but I think he's got some ERS deployment to give on this last push lap here before he comes into the pits. So he's probably got one more lap in him before he dives into the pit for a new set of mediums, I would say, for the man out in front now.
In a league of one, as Cameron Stull so often is.
As he always is. This man is probably the rightful heir, some may say. But it does look to be the way of Geek and Matty right now, as it all stands. Obviously, Cameron Stull having a few moments throughout the season, but he has been faultless throughout the races that he has actually finished, for that matter.
Just a couple of things to point out there. Matty and Geek staying out, so they're going for an extended stint and trying to come back at Joe later on in the Grand Prix. This is a battle for 13th and 14th, two of the basement dwellers down in 13th, battling between the Ferrari and the Red Bull. And it's Core that comes out on top, but that felt a little bit strange. Into the pits dives Blue Fire behind, and Core obviously doesn't quite realise that the Red Bull's in the pits defending all the way over to the right-hand side. Into the pits, like you said, though, Ice Boy in, BUSR in, Alpha in as well. We'll have to see where Jareki is with respect to those guys.
You know, it's going to be it looks like now everyone's just kind of filtered out, and within a second or so, some people, Core and Nice Boy there, Assassin and James just barely hanging on, but it looks like now everyone's kind of starting to settle in. But obviously with pit stops being thrown out, people are a little bit jumbled up and out of order. Joe up into P9 now, and after a few people have pitted, and he's now free to push against Assassin. It's going to be a very nice helping of DRS from the McLaren car onto Joe. But it is Geek who's now free to push against Matty. Matty's still struggling on these tyres, I'm going to assume, as the gap to Cameron Stull has been building, and Geek has been just leering ever closer to Matty. Probably Matty on a bit of a tyre saving strategy now. So Matty now dives into the pits, and it is now Geek able to push as hard as possible on these hard tyres and make them work as long as possible. As now Matty and Joe are going to be storming out some mega laps here. I'm expecting to see possibly those are mediums yet. I'm going to be expecting to see some very quick laps, maybe some fastest laps here from Joe and Matty. But it looks like Joe actually might be maybe able to get ahead of Matty and give him DRS. But it looks like Ice Boy is going to be ahead of Matty as well. Actually, is he?
Well, look at the gap. Look at the undercut, though. Joe coming in 2 laps early, now 2.5 seconds clear of Matty. Surely that signals to Geek that he's got to get in the pits at the end of this lap. Even if he is waiting to put the soft tyres on, he's going to leave himself an absolute mountain to climb unless Joe doesn't let Matty through, which I'll be shocked if that doesn't happen. Matty needs to get second place as it stands. Geek will need to get ahead of one of the Williams drivers, most likely Joe, of course. This is starting to get a little bit desperate for Geek, and I think he could be heading slightly towards the Last Dog Saloon fairly shortly.
Yeah, it's going to be looking like a rather tense situation here for Geek, as Geek does have some mileage to cover now. We're going to be looking at the time to Cameron Sol, obviously Cameron Sol being a pretty good benchmark to base Geek's times off of now. So we're going to be looking to see if that gap closes up any bit, to see if he can try to bring that gap down and be within that fight against Joe and Matty to the bitter end. Joe backing up a lot here, and already Matty just right behind him and is going to be able to pass him rather quickly, I'm going to assume, on down into turn 14.
I wonder if Geek's going to the end here. I wonder if he's going to try and hang this out. And maybe the only opportunity he thought, he didn't have the pace over the two Williams guys, so he's going to have to win this on strategy. The gap between Geek and Joe is about 14 seconds, if my maths is correct there. So Joe and Matty have got to be around a second a lap faster than Geek at this stage. Certainly possible. But what it does mean is we're going to have a grandstand finish in the deserts of Bahrain, because Matty goes past Joe and gets up into 6th place on the road and is now the chaser as he tries to hunt down 2nd place Geek for the championship.
You know, it kind of feels like Singapore last year, actually, where the Mercedes drivers pitted for a fresh set of medium tyres and hunted down the front runners of Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris and tried to make that work as much as possible.
Yes.
Obviously, George Russell going into the wall, but it was a fight to remember, obviously, with the Red Bulls not really finding the pace that race either. So it was a very close fight up at the front of the field. Obviously, Carlos Sainz getting that win there, if anyone needs to jog their memory there. But now, Matty on the back of Tom Hogg. Matty going to be having a very nice helping of DRS. Probably not going to be overtaking Tom on this corner. Going quite deep into that corner, actually, for that matter. Turning in quite late, but it's just going to be a game of follow the leader now, as Matty's just going to be hanging onto the back of Tom Hogg. Well, hugging the back of Tom Hogg until the... Until well, it looks like maybe even turn 14, a little bit earlier than some may expect, but it looks like he's just going to be backing out and maybe well, tries to look for a move on to turn. But it looks like he's going to get a very good exit out of turn 14 now. It's going to be side by side with Tom, but Tom just be able to close that increase that distance against the Williams driver, but Matty's going to be having a very nice overtake through the through rounds the inside goes Matty, and Joe also collects Tom Hogg. Two places lost in one corner pretty much, and that is Tom Hogg down to P7 from P5. Probably just letting those two drivers go by and trying to stay out of their way as much as possible. Is probably crashing out into those two would not make him a fan favourite right now.
Well, Matty made that a lot harder work than it should have been. Efficiency is the name of the game here. He's got to get through these cars as quickly as possible. That certainly wasn't it. The gap between Geek and Woolly Blob's 6.2 seconds. A further 6 seconds back to Aria. That is 12. And then we're 2 seconds back. So 14 seconds is the margin. It's about 2 seconds a lap. New mediums versus old hards. I wonder what Cameron Searle's going to do as well. Is he going to try and extend these mediums all the way to the finish? That would be very, very bold. Got a 12-second buffer at the moment and would probably come out in 4th place ahead of Matty and Joe. Potentially in 3rd, actually, ahead of Arias. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's got to be careful he doesn't pick up a puncher, because those tyres are going to be extremely worn by the time we get to the end of the race. Starting lap 23, Geek 12 seconds back. The gap is still around 13 between himself and Matty.
Geek's going to be just trying to maintain that gap to Woolly Blobs as much as possible. If he can just keep that gap to Woolly Blobs at about 6 seconds, and I think he's going to be in a very good place here to clinch the clinch this championship through against Matty here. But obviously Cameron Searle is still gaining quite a decent amount of time. Jareki on the back of BUSR. BUSR being able to overtake Jareki there with DRS and going into turn 1, a very clean overtake from BUSR. It looked like no scraps there for the position of P9. Back to what I was saying about Cameron Searle. Cameron Searle still gaining time against Geek, so he's still got quite a bit of life in those tyres. I'm going to assume. It's probably, he's known for being a bit of a tyre whisperer. So he's definitely got some kind of a strategy of where he can try to deploy his ERS and make the most of the tyres as much as possible. Geek still 6.6 seconds ahead of 6.7 seconds ahead of Willie Blobs, and we've got a little bit of a fight here for P4. Matty going going through the inside of turn 11 and getting past Aria quite nicely is now Joe, and now Aria sandwiched between the two Williams drivers as Joe's trying to make his way around the Rebel driver of Aria. Looking quite good so far as Joe's getting a good exit through this corner, and he's going to be picking up quite a good slipstream from the likes of the Rebel driver, but he is dropping a little bit from the back of that Aria's car. But
I wonder if Aria's going to try and
get.
get past Matty here. Sorry to cut in there, but this could really harm Matty. If the Red Bull comes through, you can see he's using the DRS to his effect. Aria pulls out to the right-hand side. It's going to re-overtake the Williams of Matty to move back up into 4th place. This is not what Matty needs. His teammate's trying to get involved as well as Joe sends it up the inside, puts the front wing alongside his teammate, and this is just costing Matty time that he does not have. You can see the ERS light flashing at the back of the car as well. He's got no battery to burn also. This is not good. Has he left himself with too much to do? Finally gets past Aria, but the Red Bull still isn't going to live this down. Going to try and fight it on the exit. This time, Matty is up into 4th place. Joe can't follow him through this time like he did to the Mercedes a few laps ago. But Matty can now charge forward. Joe, similar move to what we saw earlier on in the race, down into turn number 8. This time equally as clean. Up into 5th place we go. He's got to try and stay on the back of his teammate, because remember, both Williams are going to have to pass Geek for Matty to take this championship. Was that a bit of a wobble for Joe going through turn number 10? Looked like he drifted round the corner, and he has lost a significant amount of time to his teammate, almost at a second, but using the DRS to just cruise back up behind him. We now know the situation. 10 seconds is the gap, and we have just over 5 laps to go.
This is entirely doable here, as they have pretty much made up 4 seconds in the span of about I would say about 2 laps here, so it's definitely doable. 2 seconds a lap, going to be very close indeed to the likes of Geek, and probably Geek getting a little bit worried now as he sees Matty just pop up on his screen there as well. Obviously, you can only see 2 places down from you, so now Matty appearing in the view of Geek as well, now going to be able to monitor that gap between the 2 drivers very nicely as well. Joe still hanging on to the back of Matty. Matty just able to fight as openly as he wants to, as Joe's going to be trying to collect the likes of Willy Blobs as well through very soon. Willy Blobs staying out with the hard tyres, I believe, to the very bitter end on this stint after pitting under the safety car, and is staying and is looking rather nicely, looking rather well for the 2 AlphaTauri drivers. So it's going to be a bit of a fight here, I'm going to assume. Willy Blobs maybe not. Maybe picking favours in the side of Geek there. Obviously, impeding Geek a little bit with qualifying, but it looked like it is all smoothed out rather well. As hopefully, it was all the men's will be fixed here. If Willy is just going to be able to defend against the likes of the Williams drivers now.
This is going to be really interesting. Cameron Searle, remember, is still very much going to have a part to play in this, because he's taking those mediums comfortably over 20 laps. That is puncture territory easily. We could have some kind of crazy finish where Cameron picks up a puncture on the final lap and drops further back. So don't rule anything out here as we start lap 26 with Geek. The gap is currently 7.7 seconds. These Williams are coming very, very quickly with 4 laps to go. They do, though, have to negotiate the former teammate of Geek, Willy Blobs, and they don't quite have DRS just yet.
Yeah, it's going to be hopefully getting a helping of DRS through the next corner, but it is still at 1.2 seconds. The DRS detection zone for the next DRS straight is just after turn 3, right here, and it looks like Matty is still 1 second behind Willy Block, so he's not going to be able to pick up this DRS here, and it's going to have to be burning as much of that ERS as possible. But I don't think he has really much left now, as Jaraki and BUSR, these 2 have really been at it as well, you know, carrying on the legacy of a couple of laps prior, and these 2 are going to be scrapping it out for the 9th position of this race.
Matty's cruised up to the back of Willy Blob, so is going to have DRS on the run down into turn number 11. This is going to be his first real opportunity as the AlphaTauri in front locks up. That's not going to do him any favours. DRS flap opens at the back of both Williams cars as they tuck into the slipstream with Willy Blobs. They won't get through here. Going to be trying to preserve as much battery as possible, something Willy Blobs hasn't been doing particularly well on the past few visits, because that red light is flashing at the back of that car. What's going to be, what we have to notice as well, is Geek's tyres will stay fairly constant for the rest of this race. Those mediums that Matty are on, they are going to go past the 25% window, which will see a drop-off in pace. So I Wonder if they've left themselves too much to do. It's back over 2 seconds a lap, the margin that needs to be gained. Geek is sitting fairly pretty right now. ERS light still flashing at the back of Willy Blobs' car. This should be a fairly regulation move for Matty, although Willy Blobs is certainly going to fight this moving over to the right-hand side, going to force Matty to go the long way around. We could be 3 wide down into turn 1. We can't see where Joe is, but I think he's sending it up the inside as well.
Ooh.
Both Williams perfectly choreographed. Through goes Matty up onto the podium. Joe follows suit as well, though Willy Blobs going to fight it around the outside. Bit of wheel banging to boot as well, but Joe is up into 4th place too. And now we know our equation. Just under 3 laps to go. 6 seconds is the margin. Both of these Williams cars have to get past Geek to help Matty get this championship. It's starting to look fairly poor for Matty to retain this crown. It's got to be so much quicker now.
They need quality laps. They need just pure quality laps, pure pace, and just trying to storm it as much as possible against these drivers. Geek pretty much getting the tyre strategy, I would say pretty much spot on now. As these guys have got a lot of work to do. Obviously, they probably expected Geek to be pitting as well, but it just looked like it just wasn't going to be happening, as Geek is going to be trying to preserve his tyres as much as possible. But that said, we don't know his tyre wear. His tyres probably are going to be quite fairly worn. But that said, he was probably also, helping with the aid of Willy, trying to maintain a decently sized gap for the between these two cars. So it's going to be looking rather like a dash for the flag.
Gap now coming down as quickly now.
It's just not going to be coming to the point where it is, and we just see the Ferrari just go past turn 1 as these two drivers are just barely entering the overtaking zone, and Jarek is off. Maybe no, there is no safety car there. That would have been an absolute finisher if that was a safety car. If only. But one can never pray too hard.
The Last Chance Saloon has got 2 new visitors because these Williams cars are not going to catch Geek at this rate. 5.6 seconds. That gap has stabilised a little bit. It's only coming down by a couple of tenths a lap. And Geek is now in firm position to take this championship. It's been a long time coming. He used to drive for Red Bull. He then went to McLaren. He's now in the Ferrari for this season, as he was, I believe, last season as well. This is his opportunity, and it's been signed, sealed and delivered by the Williams because they got caught out by the safety car, but crucially they did pick the wrong strategy, because look out in front, 16 seconds for Cameron Searle. He has made those medium tyres last.
Yeah, Cameron Searle also just solidifying himself as one of the drivers to be when it comes to tyre management. Obviously, we saw it last season in Austria, and we're seeing it once again here, where he pits early for the hard for a medium compound tyre and makes it work as long as he likes, pretty much, and still gaining quite a sizable gap out up in front. It is going to be quite possibly a grand slam for him. I'm not sure how many he's had to this season, but it looks like he has had pole position. He has still got fastest lap, I believe, and he's led every lap so far.
Final lap of the season, 17 seconds the gap out in front, but for these 3 drivers battling for the championship, Joe excluded, but he is very much involved. It's now brain enders jam jar time, because Geek is just less than 3 miles away from picking up his first championship. What a moment it would be. It didn't look likely a few races ago, but with the calamities that have befallen Cameron Searle last time out in Silverstone, it's turned into not a possibility, a guarantee, as we're on the final lap here. The gap still over 4.5 seconds. Joe continuing to shadow Matty's every move, but they haven't been able to make the progress they needed. Just left with too much work to do. Should they have mirrored the strategy Cameron Searle went for? Probably, if you look at it now, because he still managed to extend the gap to Geek out in front. Lock up for the Ferrari going through turn number 10. Still pushing very hard. You would imagine he also has no ERSF, but we have just 1 sector to go for these guys, and it's going to have to be a monumental effort from Matty, and it's looking by every second more and more unlikely. First, though, we have to talk about Cameron Searle. 17 seconds clear. He has been the dominant driver this season, and it's going to win by a country mile. He's in a different postcode as the AlphaTauri crosses the line to win the season finale. But as we come round the final few corners, it is the Scuderia car returning to the summit of the BUSR series, because as the red light flashes at the back of the car, Geek knows what he's done. He knows what's happened. The Williams are putting in a fantastic effort, but it wasn't enough. Geek is over the line in second, and that is what he needed to take this championship. The two Williams over the line in formation, third and fourth, but they couldn't do enough as Wooly Blobs rounds out the top 5. You have your champion, and I think it's going to be a fairly popular one.
Yeah, that is definitely a long time coming for Geek. You know, he has been in the BUSR for quite a number of seasons and has now picked up his first championship of his career. Now it's going to, but it is the 3 usual suspects on the top step of the on the podium now, with Carousel, Geek, and Matty rounding out the top 3, with Joe coming in P4 and Willie Blobs in P5. Willie Blobs putting on a very commendable effort for his excursions on track and trying to hold up the Williams drivers as much as possible. Every one of these drivers, Aria, Iceboy as well, holding them up as much as possible, not going in the way of Matt and Joe's favour, and trying to keep Geek in contention as much as possible. And it has gone his way beautifully this season.
Perfectly executed race. He played his strategy card, and it turned out to be an ace that he pulled out of his hand, and he absolutely sold the two Williams for a bag of chips with that strategy call. They probably, hindsight is a brilliant thing. Matty and Joe, they went for the 2-stop. Cameron Searle managed to extend that stint all the way to the end, 23 laps on the mediums. A incredible effort, but you have to say, Matty will be cursing that strategy decision. He was pulled into the pits, and I think it turned out to be the wrong call. 4 seconds was the margin between himself and Geek at the flag. Geek is probably going to be very happy with his work today, because he didn't feel under pressure. He didn't feel like he had to mirror what his championship rival did, and that was what won him the Spring Championship of 2024.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, what a season that was. You know, we everyone thought was going to go Cameron's way, and then it didn't. And then, you know, it was a fight down to the wire for the last 2 guys. You know, it could have gone. It could have gone either way, really. At that final race, you know, could it have worked for Matty? You know, Cameron seems to have a bit of a special ability of making mediums last a lot longer than they really should do. So it's, you know, could he have done the same thing and made those mediums last a lot longer? But he did seem to be struggling quite a lot towards the end of his second stint there. So he did seem to have to put on those medium tyres and try to bolt it for the finish line. Maybe a set of softs could have worked, but I don't think he had any new ones to be using there. Obviously, he had 6 laps, I think, to try and make that up. So yeah, you know, it's possible, but he would have to mind those tyres just a little bit more. Well, let's just go through a final rundown of the order as we finish off. We told you the top 5. It was Cameron Searle, nearly 18 seconds clear of Geek, but that gap is not the one that matters. It's the one behind, 4 seconds between Geek and Matty to come home to take the championship. The 2 Williams finishing line astern at the end, with Willie Blobs rounding out our top 5. Aria, good drive, got stuck in, especially in the middle portion of that race. Comes home with a very, very handy 6th place ahead of the 2 Mercedes. Iceboy ahead of Tom Huck, who recovered well from poor qualifying. BUSR and Alpha can round out our top 10. Assassin, disappointing finale for the 2nd. McLaren won't take that 4th place in the Drivers' Championship, finishing just ahead of James. Jericho has some connection issues and a bit of a whoopsie in the closing stages. Blue Fire and then Core rounding out our 15 finishes. ZZ, the only retiree. That is the season done. I think everybody will be very, very excited to speak to the top 3. Yes, it will be the top 3, because top 3 in the championship as well. Nice bit of symmetry there as we come around full circle. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a. I mean, do you want to just want to go from P3 to P1, or shall we do? When they come out, when they come out championship order, I think that would be a good idea. We'll start with Cameron Searle, then we'll bring in Matty and Geek. So we'll wait for them to finish the briefing, the debrief. Hopefully there are no tense words, and some congratulations handed out to your new champion for the first time as well. Missed out on F1 22, came very close on a number of occasions, but this time it is Geek who is your champion of the spring season. Now it's just a waiting game. I mean, if the points have been updated, no, they haven't. I thought we could get a live championship standings for everybody, but that obviously not the case. So we'll wait for everyone to be
ready to go. What a finale. Tension was certainly a part of it, and we had some very, very exciting battles to contend with as well.
Yeah, that was a that was one of the most intense championships I have definitely witnessed. That we could have had it either way for between Geek and Matty there at the end. We just had to, it really was just a matter of who was, who was there up in the up in the timing sheets at the end of the race. Obviously, Geek had a little bit of a shaky start to the race, getting that five grid drop penalty. So it did look a bit bleak for him at the start, but he did make that work very beautifully at the safety car.
Absolutely. So now is the moment. Let us bring in our 3 championship contenders, because Cameron Searle was obviously in the running. And we are going to start with the race winner, Cameron Searle. Dominant victory in Bahrain. Obviously, you weren't quite able to take the championship due to unforeseen errors in previous races. But I think you can be very happy with your efforts this evening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, interesting game things happened in Silverstone. Void round 7, that's all I'm going to say. But no, tonight proved the point I needed to prove, and we got Geek the championship. So 2 birds.
Complete performance then, you have to say. Fastest lap, pole position, and the race victory. Another Grand Slam for you. I think you've had quite a few this season. The pace, though, was very strong. We have to talk about that mammoth stint on those mediums. Was there ever a point that you were worried that they were going to puncture?
Not puncture. The last couple of laps were in the red warning, and they did feel awful on the last lap. But I'd keep behind managing, obviously, with Matty and Joe doing their 2-stop. It was just bring it home. Obviously, I did the traditional push out the safety car, take the fastest lap. But yeah, they were feeling a little slidey, but nothing too major.
I know this is probably a bit of a cruel question to ask, but if you were to summarize your season, how would you give it as a rating?
From me, 10. From the game, 0. Obviously, yeah. Not much more I can say. I couldn't have done any better myself. That's how I'll leave that one.
Yeah, I mean, every race you finished, you won. So
yeah.
We look forward to seeing what you can come up with in the summer series. Alex or Mattia Bonotto, as we've coined him for this evening. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, Buenos Aires. So yeah, that was incredible as always. The 17 odd second lead from the checkered flag. I mean, Matty was almost there with you in qualifying. He had a moment there which I thought maybe it could happen, but it just looked like it went your way quite well indeed. To the checkered flag from that. Was there, any chance that you would think, well, maybe it would, if the fight came to you, where Matty and Geek were fighting pretty much right behind you, you would try to help out Geek as much as possible, or do you just think about just trying to storm off and prove a point?
No, I was 100% ready to help Geek. He's helped me all season. As I said, last couple of weeks, if anything did happen, I was fully ready to pay him back, as it were. And we're on the same team, as it were. Yeah. I'd rather he gets the title than I prove my point. So
very well.
Any day of the week.
Well, there's always summer series, summer champs, and obviously 2024 winter for grabs as always. It looks like you're going to be one of the favourites coming into the new season. Just give us your thoughts about how hopefully 24 improves on 23, and you don't have any of the same errors as you did in Silverstone for that matter.
For me, obviously, if it's more stable, brilliant. I'm just hoping that the game itself is a bit less arcadey, a bit more of a sim. Some of the techniques we've all had to learn in this game have been a bit counterintuitive, I would say, is the most polite word for that. But apart from that, just more of the same, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you for talking to us congratulations on what's been an exceptional season from yourself. Mitigating circumstances, meaning that the championship, which probably was deservedly going to go your way, didn't happen. But next time we see you, I'm sure you'll be continuing on that vein of form that we've seen throughout the entirety of this season.
Fingers crossed, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So, race winner, we've gone in a strange order. We've spoken to Cameron Searle. Disappointment, but I think he'll be happy with the end result that Geek managed to pick up the championship. Now, if we bring in the runner-up in the championship, that is, not in the race, we will speak to Geek last. If we can just drag Matty in. So close, but yet so far. 4 seconds the difference in the end. You weren't quite able to make that two-stop work.
No. Yeah. First 8-9 laps, loving life really. We were able to pull away from Geek, and he was on the worst strategy, so we'd be finishing on the mediums. We're thinking, right, this is good. And then a safety car comes and we're like, that's not good. So we didn't think our mediums would make it to the end with our good old controller peripherals. So we had to pit and had some fun battling. There's probably one highlight in that, but yeah, in the end, he was just able to stay out really, and that's fine.
Do you think, looking at what Cameron managed to do, that you would have been able to coax those tyres to the end?
Maybe, but I think by that point, Geek would have caught up to me on the hards and might have just gone past me anyway, so we had to try something, and it didn't work out this time.
But we did manage to see some very, very fun racing from you, bassing away back through after that second pit stop. Was that nice to be bassing away back through the pack? Not for issues, let's say, that we've seen previously, like being taken out or having some disconnection problems.
It was a different feeling to what I'm used to, but sadly I needed the goal to be just slightly more achievable and for the difficulty to be turned down a bit. But it was all right to practice some racecraft, so yeah, it was a different feeling pretty much.
Alex?
Yeah. Did team orders kind of play a big part in that? I mean, you did have Joe behind you for pretty much the entirety of the race, and had some very good moves actually for that match, especially against Willie actually in the AlphaTauri. You pretty much went 3 wide and pinched off Willie into turn 1. I mean, were you telling him just to stay behind and give him just give him DRS until you could maybe catch up to Geek and get a double overtake on him, or was it just like just stay behind me and see what happens?
Well, after we pit, we knew that the scenario was both of us need to overtake Geek. So when it came to overtaking Wooly, we know that him and Cameron are obviously very close affiliates with Geek, so it was going to be a difficult one. But Joe pulled out some very good moves to fight off anyone that tried to get in our way, whilst just staying behind me because I was the one that needed to finish second. So I thank you very much for that, but sadly it wasn't successful.
But apart from that, it was a very impressive season. Vice champion, you got to be happy with yourself there. Obviously winning the championship last season, so it's all well and good. Obviously, Summer Champs coming up next on a new F1 game, going to be F1 24, and maybe it'll be another favourite for that if you are indeed competing.
I believe that I will have to miss 2 races of summer, so I don't believe I can win based on this point system at the moment, so that's very sad. But I still have another year of uni, so be back in a title fight in autumn 24, as far away as it sounds. But yeah, it's been a good season. I mean, everyone can see it. Cameron deserved the title. So that's all I'll say on that one.
I think that's a good place to round it off, probably. Thank you for talking to us again. Congratulations on a brilliant season, second in the championship, and yeah, hopefully when we do see you next, you'll be fighting towards the sharp end, as you so often have been.
Will do. Thank you for the season.
Thank you. I think now we should we speak to our new champion? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think that would be a very, very good idea indeed. Considering that he has had a arduous journey to get here, coming through and winning his first title in his career, obviously missing out on 22 and coming through and storming the field in this last race. I think.
Well, let's bring in said champion, Geek. You can now breathe. You've got over the line. Just tell us how you're feeling.
Firstly, I wasn't expecting to hear your voice, actually. Louch said you weren't commentating. No, I'm sorry. I'm so scatterbrained right now. Absolute. I can't believe it. I really cannot. Especially after how qualifying went. I mean, Forza Ferrari, am I right? First Ferrari champs since 07.
I mean, we've got to talk to you about that moment in qualifying, to be fair, because was it Wooly that it looked like a bit of a miscommunication, like you were trying to get some slipstream and then he darted over to the right-hand side?
Yeah, so essentially what happened, we had gone over it pre-race anyway. Cameron wanted to give me slipstream coming out of turn 10, and Wooly on the straight before final corner. Wooly didn't expect me to close up as quickly as I did, and yeah, it was just a tiny miscommunication. The game is a bit silly because we've got it from both my point of view and Wooly's POV. None of us touched, so no idea why 5-place grid penalty was applied for both of us. But when I saw that, my heart absolutely sank. And
I mean,
yeah.
You made up for it pretty quickly, though, because I think you got back up into P4 by the end of lap 1 or 2. So you fought your way through very nicely. The pace itself on the mediums at the start and then the beginning of the hard stint, how would you assess that?
Yeah, I mean, like in practice races I had done prior to this, I was not gelling with the mediums for whatever reason. I don't know. Thankfully, I didn't spin out on them as I had done in a previous practice race, or else that would have been a disaster. No, but I started on the mediums. I did see Joe and Matty start on the hards, and from my POV, the hards just felt nicer as a race tire, so I wanted to be on them towards the end. Plus, the undercut on this game is supremely powerful. So, yeah, did that. Probably had the best start of my life. Yeah, managed to I think I made it 3 wide and kept it clean through 1 and 2, got up to 5th, and then yeah, just was hunting down Joe and Matty. In terms of pure pace or mediums, they definitely had me numbered. They were definitely gelling a lot better. But when it came to the hards, it was just yeah, I think I had the overall edge, even with my tire indicator flashing up at the end.
Well, we've got to talk to you about that. Obviously, both Williams going for the 2 stop. Was there ever a thought in your mind that you were going to go for the 2, or were you sticking to your guns, staying with that 1 stop until the end?
Yeah, I was always going to stick with the 1 stop. As I say, the mediums for me, I just couldn't get them working, and the softs would have burnt up very quickly. Plus, without a safety car, I didn't really see a reason to pit. Plus, I had Cameron kind of coaching me whilst he was out doing his Max Verstappen things. Yeah, I wasn't going to box, and to be honest, I wasn't somewhat confused when I saw both of them peel in. I knew it would have been tight, so I can understand it, but yeah.
Because I mean, I'll be honest, and I think me and Alex will probably agree. We initially thought it was the wrong decision to go to the end on those hard tires, but your pace on them was very, very consistent, and you proved both of us wrong. And in the end, you still had 4 seconds in hand to the 2 Williams at the end.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just as I say, the hards, I loved them. Just so consistent, so smooth on power. Just the car felt alive when that happened. It really didn't want to kick out or understeer or misbehave. There might have been a few moments here and there as they wear on, and obviously they drop off the cliff. But nah, for the most part, they were just really, really good.
Alex, what do you have to say to our new champion?
Yep. Well, the qualifying grid drop there kind of sunk my expectations a little bit of the race, but you clawed that back absolutely beautifully in the first few laps. Obviously, qualifying getting a little bit touch and go there, but apart from that, that was sublime. You picked up a good string of results. And was just consistent throughout the entirety of the season. I think you were in the podium positions for the majority of the races, actually, for that matter, apart from Belgium and Australia, actually. Yeah, Australia, Belgium, you were out of the podium, but pretty much after that, it was just entirely just podium. Obviously, picking up that win in Vegas after Carousel crashed out on the first lap. So yeah, I mean, one win to seal off a championship is crazy. That's just crazy consistency, really.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing, really, to really round it out is just just how consistent the drives were, really. The strategy calls on point this race as well. I mean, who else had one win in this?
Massey had one. Oh wait, sorry. Do you mean this championship or?
Oh no, I'm just thinking in racing in general. To be honest, I think KK Rosberg had one win.
Oh.
And won the championship there. So you're on the likes of Rosberg and Van Dorn actually in his Formula E championship. So
I'm gonna take after KK's son now and just retire at the P. No, I'm coming back for summer. Don't worry.
No, come back for summer. We're gonna have some. Have some fun racing. I'll be in that one actually, for that matter as well. So,
sweet.
See my little face in there. I don't think I'll be on your guys' pace, but you guys
I mean, anything's possible. Like compared to my very first season, honest to God, I never thought I'd be in a position like this. Like, looking back at it, I think my first ever race, which ironically was Bahrain, finished dead last, 25 seconds behind the next car. Admittedly, that was because I had massive skill issues, and I had no idea about anything in sim racing. But yeah,
you've got that back massively.
Oh yeah, especially compared to winter, when the last time we went to Bahrain.
I do have to ask what this means to you, though, overall, because obviously we've seen in the past, you've been kind of like the bridesmaid, if you like. You've always never quite managed to get over the line. How does it feel now? Obviously, there were circumstances that meant it didn't fall into your lap, but it was looking much better going into the finale. But to finally get over the line, you must be very proud of what you've achieved.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, like, I did not fully expect this, especially this season. Like Cameron, and I've said it in multiple interviews, and you're probably tired of hearing me say it, he is just Verstappen in BUSR right now. The man is an absolute machine. So yeah, I fully wasn't expecting, let alone a race win, really. My new Fanatec gear came just before the season started, and Australia, kind of showed that better gear doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win everything. Obviously, I've configured it to my liking now, and I'm happy and comfortable. But yeah, with Cameron's insane pace, and then probably after Belgium, I think I'll be surprised. I was still surprised that I was ahead of Massey post Belgium. I've thought that would have been a massive, massive loss. And then the unfortunate events of last week, where Cameron's game just decided to have a funny. Yeah, I felt horrible for him when that happened, and this championship, it does it. Sorry, I'm trying to word it. My brain is just gone. This championship, it should have been his, but this one I'm going to dedicate to him, because he's been an amazing friend and an even better race strategist, and just keeping my head in it. So, Cameron, I know you're watching, but thank you.
That's what we like to hear. Some camaraderie in the building. I don't think, can't get enough of that sometimes. But thank you very much for talking to us. Congratulations on finally getting your championship. And we look forward to seeing what you can come back with in the summer series on that brand new game.
Thank you very much. I think first one with champion. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Well done.
As always.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that, I think, sums us up. I just want to, let's just rewind a little bit, though.
Yeah.
You said you're going to be racing in the summer series. I'm ready to commentate over that.
Oh, please do. I should be in for a few races next season for F1 24. As soon as I get my wheel down here, this is currently up at university, but I do have to bring it back down to home with me. But after that, it will be, obviously it is just a Logitech wheel, but it will be quite fun to see how quick I am against these guys. I haven't really benchmarked myself too much. I haven't really even touched the game that much either, to be honest, because I've been either doing this or other things. So obviously it's going to be quite a fun little excursion to see just how I can fester against these guys. Obviously, it's probably the summer series is normally a lot smaller than the spring and winter series, so we're probably going to have one lobby. So it would always be good to see how we're going to be benchmarking ourselves against the other guys up there as well. Obviously, it's also going to be a good thing as well for my university club as well. So just a little bit of a little bit of publicity there as well.
Finally, then, we'll just run through the final point standings. Geek in the end winning it by 11 ahead of Matty, 646 against 635. Carousel ending on 619. I mean, we'll put the elephant away now. We've mentioned it enough. We'll leave him in the corner and we'll move on from that. Assassin, I got it wrong actually. Did actually come home in fourth in the end, 10 points ahead of teammates Alpha and then Joe, who missed a few rounds earlier on, just behind them in sixth. Willie Blobs in seventh. And yeah, anyone disappointed down there? Jericho, we didn't see too much this season down in. I can't work that out. I'm not going to try. But yeah, that is us done for quite a while. We are going to be back in the summer on a brand new game, so get ready for that. If anybody watching that is not in the BUSR server and wants to get involved, make sure you get in the Discord. You can find that on the BUSR socials. Get involved, sign up for the summer series. It's going to be a lot of fun on a brand new game. Everybody is set back to zero, so you can test yourself out against some of these guys and Alex as well, who I'm sure will be very excited to see how some of you guys race against him. I think we're done though.
Yeah,
just to finish us off. Yeah, just to finish us off. Where can everybody find you, Alex, on the old socials?
Well, I've my social media is AGW Boxer pretty much everywhere, but obviously I am the president of the Royal Holloway Motorsport Club, so you'll find us at RHL Motorsport everywhere. It's Discord, Instagram, and also YouTube. We do have a little video there. We're also planning to post more in the future as well. So we compete in the BUKC series and the BUSR. Last season we were the BUSR Universities champions as well with RWB, and Joe coming in with some very respectable points there last season. But I will have to do the maths behind the Universities champions this season. I will sit down for a bit and just work those out as I go along. But yeah, that is pretty much me. I'm just floating about. I'm always on Discord as well, so if anyone has any other questions about the BUSR series, please do drop me a DM and I will try to answer it to the best of my abilities.
Very, very nice. And if you want to listen to whatever rubbish I have to say at points over the next few months on most socials, is Tom Wilco 66, where you can find me usually talking out my backside. But yes, everybody, thank you for watching this season. As always, it's been a pleasure to commentate on, and we will see you in, a few months' time when we will be back for the summer series on F1 24. I, for one, am very excited. Thank you, everybody, for watching. From myself, Tom, and from Mattia Benotto, also known as Alex alongside me. We will see you then.
Thank you very much, guys.
history where I could stand and say, arithmetic begins